Luke chapter 13. Happy birthday, all January people. Luke chapter number 13, begin at verse number 6. He spake also this parable. A certain man had a fig tree planted in his vineyard, and he came and sought fruit thereon, and found none. Then said he unto the dresser of his vineyard, Behold, these 3 years I come seeking fruit on this fig tree, and find none. Cut it down. Why cumbereth it the ground? He answering said unto him, Lord, let it alone this year also, till I shall dig about it and dung it. And if it bear fruit, well, and if not, then after that thou shalt cut it down. The word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. Verse number 8, I want to drop anchor there. And he answering him said, Lord, let it alone this year also. I want to talk for a few moments this morning from the thought, can 1 year make a difference? Can 1 year make a difference? Father, in Jesus' name, thank you. You have kept us a whole year and brought us into a new year. I thank you for vision, and I thank you for provision. I thank you for directive, but I also thank you for direction. I pray this morning in the strong name of Jesus Christ that you will strengthen this mortal body, that you will guide this mortal mind, that you will speak through these mortal lips, so that these people who have gathered today will not leave here marveling at the mind of Wormley, but at the mouth of God. Speak, Lord. Your people are listening. Have your way now, and help me to preach this word right. I pray this prayer in the name of the only name that matters. Pray it in the name of Jesus the Christ. Help me to preach this word right. In Jesus' name. Thank God. Amen. Can 1 year make a difference? My brothers and my sisters, we now find ourselves at a familiar place. The first Sunday of a new year. The first Sunday where we all have gathered, and most of us have gathered with New Year's resolutions. We have come here with thoughts and intentions on what we plan to do, accomplish, or become this year. What is unsettling is that some of us have the same resolution this year that we've had for the past few years. I'm not talking about nobody. I'm just talking about what I'm talking about. That we come in with a handful of the same resolutions with no clear path or plan how to execute that which we have endeavored. And that, my brothers and sisters, is why most people don't live up to their resolutions, because they have dreams but no plan. If you fail to plan, I said this yesterday at the vision party, you plan to fail. If you do not set a target, If you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time. That we must plan what it is we want to do, be, become, or see in our lives. And many of our resolutions, Mama B, don't come to pass because they have a bad foundation. They are material. If your resolution, if your first one is not to become a better you, none of the other stuff you want to acquire will matter. Because if you're miserable and you get money, you'll be miserable with money. If you miserable and you lose weight, you'll be skinny and miserable. If you miserable and you get married, you'll be miserable and make somebody else miserable. If you miserable and you get a promotion on your job, God help all those people who work up under you. Because you'll be miserable and come to work with the objective of making everybody else's life as miserable as yours. We must start everything with introspection. The old saints used to sing a song, "Is God satisfied with me?" We don't sing songs like that no more, because the truth is when we sing them, the answer usually is no. So we don't want to sing that. We rather sing songs that talk about the stuff that we can acquire. But God is looking for us to become better people. The only way that's going to start is from the inside. So the question becomes, after having the same resolutions over and over, how do we ever expect to really realize what we've set out to accomplish? After trying and failing, or planning and failing, or thinking and failing, is it possible that this year something can be different? So the question of this morning is, can 1 year make a difference? The question is begged to us from the text that we just read, Luke chapter number 13, where Jesus now gives a parable. And he says some stuff in the parable, and on your first reading of the parable, you might miss the power of the process. That's why I'm here, to help you read it again, to help you see that in this parable alone is what we need in order to improve our lives over the course of this next year. Are you interested? Don't matter. I'm going to preach it anyway. He says in the parable that a certain man, I love certain man parables, because, Tommy, certain man parables apply to everybody. If you name somebody, then people say that's not for me. But a certain man, or a certain woman, a certain person can apply to each and every one of us. Certain man, a certain woman, a certain person had a fig tree already planted in his vineyard. The tree was already planted. It had already grown. And yet, here was the problem. There was no fruit on the tree. On the first reading of the text, one would think that the tree never had fruit. But if you read the text closely, the text tells you that it's a fig tree. So at some point, Pastor, that most of us at one point were doing all right and we're heading in the right direction, but at some point we veered off course. We stopped feeding our tree. And the fruit that we once bore is no more. It's a sad commentary on Biscuits, because a lot of times when we first get saved, we are excited to display our fruit, even when people ain't hungry. We force our fruit upon them. But over time, Lisa, we get tired of having to care for that tree that bears that fruit. What tree in your life has died? Oh, I came to preach pastoral to y'all today. Because the tree does not have to necessarily symbolize your life. It's a part of your life that was once fruitful and now is not. And the problem is that we want to walk around and act like we okay. And we don't challenge that there is a space in our life that needs improvement. All of us, hear my pronoun, all of us have some space in our lives that need some improvement. Whether we want to improve there or not, there's something about you, something about me that needs to be better. And you cannot get to better until you acknowledge that you got some bad. Can't tell you how many times I have walked around with a cold for longer than I needed to because I refuse to take medicine. And I refuse to take medicine because I refuse to accept and acknowledge that I was sick. And that's the problem that has crept into the church, because we have let people with false theology tell us, don't speak it. I'm trying to help somebody. I'm going to free somebody today. Shut that devilish nonsense up. It is what it is. Hear me. When the Bible says in Romans, talking about speaking things that be not as though they were, that ain't about you. If you read the text in Romans, it talks about God who speaks things that be not as though they were. You mad, but go ahead and turn to it. Only God speaks things into existence. If you could speak things into existence, you'd be God. And let's talk about it for a minute, because if you could speak things into existence, why you still ain't rich? Why you still fat? Why you still broke? Why you still? Because it is the voice of God that things respond to. And the only things that come to pass that I speak are the things that God has ordained and allows. I speak and God says something different, it ain't going to happen. You speak all you want. Nobody supersedes the voice of God. There's nobody like him. We need to improve some things. So he says that he had a tree that once bore figs. He came and sought fruit, and he didn't find any. And now the dresser the owner of the vineyard says to the gardener, I have been looking at this tree for 3 years. I gave you a chance to fix it. I've watched this tree become barren over the course of 3 years. While you had a job, you did not tend to this tree. The reason I know you didn't, because I have been looking for fruit. You looked for fruit on it today and didn't find nothing. I've been looking for fruit on it for 3 years. Because you recognize that something needs to be done in your life, it's not the first time anybody recognized it. Just because you recognized it today, somebody else knew what you just found out. Somebody else already knew you were mean. Somebody else already knew you didn't know how to talk to people. Somebody else already knew that you were messy. Somebody else already knew that. You just discovered it today. But it didn't just happen today. Here's what the text says. You get mad, but this is the text. Text says it took an outside observer to be the impetus of the improvement. Can I tell you this? You need people in your life who love you enough to challenge you. This is why my circle is exceedingly small, because I don't need people who will yes me because I'm pastor. I don't need people who will brown nose and kiss my tail. I need people who are going to tell me the truth about me. On the other side of the fence, I don't need haters who always find fault in me and never acknowledge their own stuff. That's the problem. We don't have balance in our circle. You need people who will tell you the truth in love. Listen, if I don't think you love me, you can't correct me. And some of y'all, listen, I'm Bernie Mac to some of y'all. I'll say what you're scared to say. Before I let some people start correcting me, well, you need to, whoa. Since we talking about what we need to do, let me tell you what you need to do. Say what you was getting ready to say in reverse. Let me translate. Shut up. The vineyard owner and the gardener had a relationship. That's why he could say what he said. And that was his boss. Can I help some of y'all on your job? Your boss does not have to be right. They're your boss. Some of y'all gonna go home mad. Pastor said it. My daddy taught me this. Son, the boss, not always right, but they always the boss. You have to learn how to glean something from what they said. Because at the end of the day, even if it's not your social truth, it is their vocational truth. And if you want to keep your job, you need to acknowledge the power of the boss to assess and evaluate you. And if the work part doesn't help you, all of us got a boss. Because now the spiritual application of this text is this: that God is the owner of the vineyard. We are the gardeners. And the fig tree is our lives. If you just want me to be spiritual, because I can, I flow with you either way. But I think I can help you if you can see this as more than just that. He says, I have been looking at you for 3 years. And for 3 years, you have been fruitless. If God was to evaluate your life, what would the grade be? You can get an A for church attendance and still fail the course. You get a whole lot of folks. You can come to the class every day and I'll still fail you. Ask my students, they'll tell you. You come to class every day because that's 1/10 of the grade. If the rest of the stuff is bad, if your homework is failing and your tests are failing, you could be there every day. You showed up every day to fail. Showing up at church does not help your grade. It's only the tutorial to help you pass the test. This is the place where I help you do your homework. I'm your tutor, but you still got to take the test. Everybody in here got a test waiting for you when you leave. Some of you going through one right now. It's a test. He says, I've come here 3 years looking for fruit on this tree, and I have found nothing. Cut it down. Because God's mercy endures forever, but his grace runs out. Grace is an extension of time. It is not an eternal extension. Homeowners, where are you? Your mortgage was due 4 days ago. You have until the 16th to pay your mortgage with no late fee. On the 17th, the same mortgage now goes up at least $100. And all you had to do was pay it on time. But you still own the house because you have grace. You got to pay more now, but you're still under grace. But now miss 2 of those. I'm good, Sister Robinson. Miss 2 of those. And then another letter comes. It's nicely worded. It says, we have not received. We've not received your payment. If your record's different from ours, you can disregard this notice. But if you haven't, please remit payment by, or else foreclosure proceedings will begin against you. Grace runs out. After 3 years, the grace ran out. He said, not only do I assess it, but here is what I think you ought to do. Cut it down. So here's the thing. If the year is going to make a difference, there's a couple of things that need to happen. One, you need to inspect, assess, and acknowledge. Now, I know that's 3 things, but that's still 1 point. It's that kind of sermon. Inspect. Look at it. Something about you, whatever it is, look at your life. Please look at it. You look at it. Stop asking God to do the work. I grew up, used to hear them sing the song. If you find anything that shouldn't be, take it out. But then I read 1 Corinthians chapter 11, which Sister D is going to read later on today, when he talked about taking the Lord's Supper. And this little verse jumped out at me. It said, but let a man examine himself. Why are you asking God to do what his word told you to do? I don't need God to examine me, because I know what I did. And he doesn't need to examine me, because he already knew that what I was going to do. Because the word says he knows my thoughts while they are afar off. When they on their way to my mind, God looks and see, oh. He seen it. Ooh. Papa, he knows my thoughts. He don't have to examine me. He knew me. But if he examines you, then what? Let me tell you this. My mama used to tell me this when I was growing up. You better clean that room. Marcus gave us a youth moment a year ago talking about that. And he told y'all what I used to, listen, you better clean that room. Because if I clean it, I'm throwing away everything. And the truth is this, Mama T, we say, God, if you find anything that shouldn't be careful with that prayer. Because sometimes your heart has been corrupted. And if you say, if you find anything not like you, take it out, and your heart has been corrupted, you have just asked for a heartectomy. What is that? They don't even make those. They don't do those. A heartectomy. Take out my heart. No. God will give you a new heart. He'll transplant a heart. But you don't want to just take the old one out with no plan. Can't live without a heart. You live without kidneys, can't live without a heart. I don't care how long they put you on bypass. You ain't living. So you need to inspect, assess, and acknowledge. They both agreed that the tree was barren. Sometimes you have to be able to be mature enough to hear criticism and not get in your feelings. That's me. You need to be able to say, you know what, yeah, that's me. I know that's hard. I know it's hard, but you got to be able to say, that's me. That's my bad. That is me. I realize some stuff about me that when I hear it, I'm like, yeah, that's true. That's me. I ain't all hearts and flowers. I'm not trying to throw off on nobody. This sermon is as much for me as it is for you. Hear me. This is for us. Because you do realize good pastors eat it before they serve it. I ain't going to give it to you to eat, and I don't eat it first. And I'm going to tell you, I know why some of y'all look at me like you looking at me, because I didn't like how it tasted when I got it. I felt like God was a little hard on me in this sermon. That's so if you feel like I'm being hard on you, messenger. I didn't write the letter, I'm just delivering it. Don't shoot the mailman. He says, inspect, assess, acknowledge. Acknowledge. I need to do better. Stop thinking that they're attacking you at work if you get to work late every day. They're not attacking you. Acknowledge the fact that you're late. Acknowledge the fact that your lunch is 30 minutes and you take 45. Acknowledge that. Acknowledge that when you're in an argument, you start the argument. Acknowledge. Acknowledge that you're bad with money. Acknowledge. Acknowledge that you got a quick temper. You got slick mouth. Acknowledge. You don't like my message, Sanders. So inspect, assess, acknowledge. So he says, now that after he has had it inspected, assessed, and acknowledged, I'll get to it. Now, what will you do? Because now after you acknowledge that the tree is barren, you now have to do something about it. A lot of us get to the acknowledgement stage, and I applaud you, those in the room that have got to the place of acknowledgement. But the problem with some of us is we have resignation acknowledgement. Let me tell you what resignation acknowledgement sounds like. Well, that's just the way I am. Oh, my favorite. This is my favorite church people. Wait. My favorite. This is my favorite church people. God knows my heart. The problem is we know your hand. So after you acknowledge, Greg, that something needs to be done, now you have to come up with a plan. What do I do? It's in the text. Here's what the text says. He says, after assessing the tree, the owner says, cut it down. That's my solution. Cut it down. It's no more good. And I don't know about nobody else, but I thank God for Jesus. Because when God looks at the tree of my life, many times his assessment is cut it down. Now y'all looking at me funny, but the truth is, if somebody really acknowledged you, and if you looked at your life, God's looking at your stuff like, you know what, just cut it down. Just cut it down. I done gave her chance after chance. I done talked with him. I done gave him grace. Cut it down. But Jesus steps in and says, wait a minute. I know it's been 3 years. I know it's been barren. I know it's been a problem. Just give me one more year. Just give me. I should have been cut off New Year's Eve, but Jesus said, give me. My ministry should have died. My business should have died. My marriage should have died. My family should have broke up. My reputation should have been destroyed. Cut it down. No, just give me. Just give me one more year. This is why we come to church after being hurt in church. God says, just give me. Some of y'all sitting here now, you've been hurt, but you're still here because God said to you, just give me. Just give me one more year. You let me do what I got to do. In 1 year, he says, if I can do what you want done in a year, then leave it alone. If I can do it in a year, cut it down. That's a fair deal. So here is the plan. Y'all sit down. Here is the plan. He says, give me a year, and I will dig around it. Now, let me tell you why that's powerful. Because a lot of us look at a barren tree and start at the branches. But barren branches are caused by rotten roots. I'm preaching better than y'all responding. Barren branches are caused by rotten roots. And if you want to change something in your life, hear me, my brother and my sister, you got to dig deep and you got to get to the root. I didn't bring no seminary stuff today. This is hard stuff today. You got to get to the root, because the problem is at the root. You dig around, you're going to discover the source of the problem is deep, buried. And it didn't start today. It's at. Is it possible that the reason that you are how you are because your mama was that way and your grandmama was that way, and the devil has snuck into your family and put and implanted a generational curse that now you got to find it and you got to destroy it? A generational curse lies at the root. The problem is at the root. That's where we got to get to. The root is the buried place. It is the dirty place. It is the place you cannot easily access. And when you get to it, you're going to see some stuff down there. There's some stuff at that root. What has attached itself to the root that's stealing all of your resources from your tree? Something that has attached itself to the root, and no matter how much you feed the tree, the parasite is at the root. Let me dig around it, because I think that the first place I need to look is at the root. Stop just acknowledging the problem, get to the root of it. I have had to acknowledge the fact that sometimes my issues with people lie at the root how I was raised. Some of y'all can't hear correction because you've been spoiled your whole life. That's at the root. Just let me sweat. Please just let me sweat a little bit longer. I promise you. I'm trying to lose weight. This my aerobics for Sunday. I promise you I'm okay. Thank you so much for loving me. But I'm okay. So some of my issues and some of your issues can be traced further back than your current situation. And that's why we don't solve it, because we only go as far as where we are. And we go back to the beginning of this situation. But the problem is much deeper than this. There's something going on at the roots. The problems with men always have to do with the men. Some of those issues came from daddy not being home. we don't want to acknowledge that. But daddy not being there has hurt some of us. Some of us endure some stuff because we're trying to live out the correction of other people's failures. Some stuff you need to be able to walk away from. It don't make you bad. You got to do what's best for you. I've learned that some of us, we got anger issues because we angry at somebody that we couldn't tell that we were angry. Some of y'all mad at y'all mama. And now you just mean to everybody because your mama gone and you can't tell her how mad you were at her. Yeah, I know it's painful because I'm at the root now. You go, the worst dental procedure is a root canal. You ain't felt no pain. You ain't felt a root canal make your toes hurt. Getting to the root causes pain everywhere. And if your introspection doesn't hurt a little, you ain't going deep enough. You ought to be able to go to that dark place inside of your life that you don't talk about at parties. That dark place that everybody see you laughing and joking, shucking and jiving. But the you that cries over stuff that don't nobody know. There's pain I have my wife don't know. Pain I have my parents don't know. It's pain I have my best friend don't know. It's pain I have that don't nobody know but Jesus. And ain't nobody gonna know it. I ain't gonna tell nobody but Jesus. Because listen, that's why I told you. I'm just talking about what I'm talking about today. Because it is my job, no matter how deeply I get cut, to not bleed on you. But sometimes I got to cut you. Some of y'all got some intracranial pressure building up. I got to put a burr hole in your head, drain out some of that fluid. Nurse Candice is like, yes, he talking my language now. This root stuff is stuff we have in church never had permission to talk about. I've said time and time again, I am protective of the children in this church. I talk to the children in this church. They confide in me. There's some stuff about some of y'all kids I know you don't know. And you ain't going to find out from me. Because the minute that you find out from me, they'll never talk to me again. But I said to some of you parents, you need to talk to your child. I told some of y'all, before it got bad, you need to talk to your child. That ain't going to be all right. All right. I know how it feels to grow up in church and can't tell. I got to come to church and sit next to my brother who's been molesting me. Root. This is why I'm so protective of the children. Because sometimes the enemy at your gate ain't outside, they live in the house. So before you start criticizing these children, those who are going through their identity crisis and having problems with their sexuality, instead of just judging them, how about you take some time and get to the root? The reason that we don't want to do it because we don't want to admit You trying to make us think that they perfect, and they walking around like, will somebody please see me? And then they stop coming to church because this is where you put on a dog and pony show. And now they can't come here and be their true self because they're scared they're going to let you down. Dig around. Get to the root. Oh, some of y'all got something to think about now. He wasn't finished with that. He says, after I dig around the root, because sometimes the root, it could be attached to a rock, it could be wrapped around something else, it could be attached to another plant that's taking all of its nutrients, because you do realize that sometimes our problem is not just the root inside of us, it's who we're connected to in the root. There's elemental connections, people that we're connected to at the root. You see us out here, but they're connected. That's why some of us were never challenged to be better, because our connections at the root make us scared to tell our friends the truth about themselves, because we're scared that they're going to tell everybody about, what about you? But because I'm an alcoholic does not negate the fact that you're a liar. You a liar. You a drunk. You still a liar. That didn't change nothing. While drunk, I recognized you was lying. That means you a bad liar. And when we get free, we're afraid to be free. Or we're afraid to challenge those who we were bound with to be free with us. Come on, be free with me. Now that's your thing. Okay? Well, I can't stay here. Because he who the Son sets free, he's free indeed. And now stand fast in the liberty wherewith God has made you free, and be not entangled again with the yoke of bondage. Sometimes once you cut the root, you cut the connection. I told you I'm teaching better than some of y'all responding. If you listening, I'm helping you. Then he says, let me hasten. He says, let me dung around. So, about that, oh, my children are here. You praying, Martine? All right, okay. You can't experience some growth without putting up stuff, thank you, without putting up with some stuff. Some stinky stuff. Squishy. Not good smelling. Because growth doesn't happen without fertilizer. And that's the part that we don't like, because sometimes putting up with stuff is what helps you grow. I can handle more stuff now because of the stuff I've handled. If nothing ever changes, Tanisha, nothing ever changes. me say it again. Nothing ever changes. And nothing ever changes. Say it one more time for emphasis. If nothing ever changes, then nothing ever changes. You got it? Sometimes you got to put up with the fertilizer. Because as much as it's unpleasant, it is helpful for growth. It feeds and kills at the same time. Fertilizer feeds and kills. It feeds what you need and kills what you don't. And because there is a trench built around you, you now have a dung moat that now separates you from everything and everybody. The tree sometimes can't grow until it's planted alone. Stop despising alone. Alone ain't lonely. Alone is just alone. And if you can't be alone with people, I promise you, I'm alone almost all the time. I'm alone right now. Because ain't nobody preaching here but me. Nobody's sharing this experience but me. Your experience right now is not like my experience right now. Y'all together, I'm alone. Yet we're in the same space. It's, gosh, ain't got time. So, let me dung around it. Every now and then, God will allow stinking situations to surround you. Because you need to grow alone. Let me help some of you. There are people who are connected to your tree, stealing your fruit. And if you want to know who they are, make them put up with some stuff. Don't give them their way. Say no. Don't take the call. Don't do what they ask. That's stuff. But the same stuff that's helping you is killing them. And they'll call you your attitude stinking. But what you smelling ain't me. It's the fertilizer. Finally, last thing. Set expectations and consequences. I'm still in the text. If after I cut around and dung and care for it and nurture it, if it grows, leave it alone. If it doesn't, cut it down. Some of you need to put a clock on some stuff in your life. I dare you to start your clock today. Put a clock on it. You got until. And don't tell nobody about your clock but you. Let it be an internal clock. Set your clock and say, you got until. Because when people know what the clock is, let me tell you about black folk. If the clock is October say, this needs to be fixed by this time. And if it doesn't, set a consequence. And when you said it, do what you said. If you do what you said, I promise you, you do what you say one time, the word will get out. She ain't booked yet. I thought she was just talking. She ain't playing. I thought he was just, do you know he? Mm-hmm. Can 1 year make a difference? I believe it can. I believe that by the time we get back here, by the first Sunday, January 2021, there's some stuff that's in your windshield now that's going to be in your rearview mirror. January 2021. Because 1 year can make a difference. Come on, let's give God praise. I'm done. I ain't hooping, hollering. I worked hard enough. I'm finished. Let's stand.